Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. Today we're going to be covering a Japanese grammar pattern that doesn't exactly have an English counterpart to it, and that is going to basically just be using the word whole and adding it right after a noun with the particle no. So basically noun plus no whole to mean, again, something that I can't quite exactly put into English words, but it'll loosely translate to something along the lines of the way of noun or the direction of noun, or probably my number one preferred interpretation, the side of noun. And so to put this grammar pattern, its function, into actual words while still being pretty vague, because this is, again, a pretty hard thing to grasp if we're coming from the mindset of just comparing everything to the English language. When we're using this grammar pattern, noun plus no whole, in a sentence, what we're going to be doing is basically emphasizing that it's the noun used with no whole that makes the statement in the sentence true. So that should definitely still be pretty complicated, so what we're going to do is we're going to introduce a general construction for using no whole. And so for our general construction, what we have is a clause plus the phrasing no wa plus the noun that we're going to use with no whole plus the actual phrasing for the grammar pattern we're going to use here, no whole, then basically da or des to end the sentence. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go through our first two example sentences using this base construction to get a more intuitive look at this grammar pattern. So for our first example sentence, we have the line tsuyoi no wa kare no hou da ga hayai no wa watashi no hou da. And so what this sentence is going to translate to is basically, if we're talking about strength, then he's the better one, but if we're talking about speed, then I'm the better one. So let's break down this sentence bit by bit to get how this no whole construction is working here. And so first, what we're going to need to notice is that we're actually using this grammar pattern twice in one sentence. So if we break the sentence in half, we're going to evaluate the first half of the sentence and see how it's using the grammar pattern first. So basically for our clause in the construction, it's just going to be one word. It's just going to be an e adjective tsuyoi, which means strong. So with that one word tsuyoi, we've basically fulfilled the clause requirement in the grammar construction. So now we have the default phrasing no wa. And what this is just doing is basically turning that clause into basically a phrase that we can use as a noun, or a nominal phrase basically. And so the particle no is doing that, and then we have the particle wa to basically mark that as the topic. So far we have tsuyoi no wa, and this is going to translate to basically being in regard to strength. Right after that, we're going to fulfill the noun requirement in our grammar construction. So for our noun, we're going to use kare, which means him or he. And then we're going to plug in no whole after the noun. So kare no whole is going to translate to something along the lines of his direction or his way or his side. And then we have da to basically end the sentence, though this isn't the end of the example sentences. And so if we look at what we have so far, it's just tsuyoi no wa kare no hou da. And what this will literally translate to is basically in regard to being strong, it is his side. What this will more naturally turn into is, if we're talking about strength, then he's the better one. And now let's continue on with our full example sentence. We're going to put ga right after da to mean but. So this will be, in terms of strength, he's the one, but. And now we have another instance of the grammar pattern, and it's basically going to be the same thing, except we're replacing strength with speed and replacing him with me. So hayai no wa watashi no hou da. You'll see that all the grammatical points here are identical to the first part of the sentence. The e adjective hayai, which means fast, is going to be replacing tsuyoi, which means strong. Kare, which translates to he or him, is going to be replaced by watashi, which means I or me. And so if we combine this whole sentence together, we have tsuyoi no wa kare no hou da ga hayai no wa watashi no hou da. And what this will translate to is, if we're talking about strength, then he's better, but if we're talking about speed, I'm better. And so the key thing to note here is basically how the no whole after kare and after watashi is kind of instigating this dynamic of sides, as in which side is more qualified to fit the statement in the sentence. In which the first statement in the sentence is being strong, then his side is going to win, and in the second part of the sentence, the statement is being fast, and in that case, my side is going to win. So let's continue to get a better idea of this dynamic of sides and directions and ways as we continue along with our example sentences. So for our next example sentence, we have the line Onesan to onisan de wa kibishii no wa onesan no hou desu. And so what this line is going to be translated to is basically between older sister and older brother. Older sister is the strict one. Okay, so let's break down this sentence real quick. First up, we have onesan, which is going to be older sister basically. We have to, which translates to and. We have onisan, which translates to older brother. We have dewa, and this is basically just going to indicate that we're going to be comparing these two things mentioned, older sister and older brother. And now we're going to implement the grammar pattern. So first up, our clause basically is just going to be, again, a single word adjective, and that's going to be kibishi, which means strict, basically. We have no wa to basically make that the topic again. And then we have the noun onesan, and then we have no ho right after that, so it means basically older sister's direction, or older sister's way, or older sister's side. And then we end the sentence with des. So this is all together saying between older sister and older brother, the strict one is older sister. Onesan to onisan de wa kibishi no ho wa onesan desu. So like many grammar patterns that we've covered already, this grammar pattern isn't going to be strictly limited to the construction that we present in the actual video lesson here, such as the clause plus the phrasing no wa plus a noun plus the phrasing no ho plus the sentence ending des or da. This is a very common grammar pattern, and it's going to commonly appear in different constructions in which a lot of the times the noun plus no ho is going to be the subject, and a sentence can start off along the lines of something like noun plus no ho ga, then we finish the sentence with whatever statement. So let's go through two example sentences now following that construction. Watashi wa neko yori inu no ho ga suki desu. And what this line is going to basically translate to is just, I like dogs more than cats. So let's break down this sentence bit by bit. First up, we just have watashi wa, and this is going to be marking me or I as the topic of the sentence. We have the word neko, which means cat. We have yori, and yori here is going to be indicating that we're going to be comparing things. And so since neko is going to be preceding yori, the neko or cat is going to be the thing that is less blank than the next thing that we're going to mention, and the next thing that we're going to mention is inu or dog. So far we have dogs are more blank than cats, and now we're going to find out what that blank is. But before that, again, we have the phrasing no ho right after inu to make it inu no ho, or dog's side, basically. And so now what follows is just ga suki desu, and this is going to mean to like, and so altogether this will be I like dogs more than cats. And so while we see that literally the sentence would translate to, for me, I like dog's side more than cats, we'll notice that this nuance of sides or way or direction isn't going to persist all the way to our natural translation of I like dogs more than cats, but the dynamic that it establishes is going to be implied in the translation still. When we add no ho to a noun, it kind of makes sides of things, and when we have sides we have options, and when we have options there's going to be a better option than the rest, or the best option. And what that means is that basically when we're using noun plus no ho, a lot of times this is going to mean that we are comparing things, which again means that we're going to be stating that something is more blank than something else. And in this example sentence, we get an explicit idea of that because we actually use the particle yori to mean more than cats. But what we're going to do in the next example now is we're not going to use yori or anything else that will indicate a comparison to. We're just going to use no ho, and we'll see how when we translate it naturally, it actually is going to retain this idea of comparison. So for our last example sentence, we have the very simple line, doyobi no ho ga ii. And what this will basically translate to is Saturday is better. Let's break down the sentence real quick. First up, we have doyobi, that's just going to mean Saturday. We have no ho right after doyobi to mean basically Saturday's side, or the way of Saturday, or Saturday's direction. Then we have the ga marking it as the subject of the sentence, and then we just have the word i, which means good. And that's the whole sentence. We don't have an adjective that means better, but this will translate to Saturday is better because when we introduce no ho, we're saying the side of Saturday is good, which kind of basically implies that there's another side that we can consider, but we're not going to choose that because Saturday's side is the best option. And so instead of translating e to just good here, as in Saturday is good, what it's going to translate to more correctly is Saturday is better. And so yeah, those are our example sentences for using no ho in a set construction that we've already provided for the first two example sentences, and some examples using it in another common construction for it, as there are many. But hopefully this was a good rundown of what it actually means to add the phrasing no ho after any given noun, and the dynamic of comparison that it kind of introduces, even if there aren't any explicit grammatical points in the actual sentence that denote a comparison being made. And of course, in the end, it does boil down a lot to context, the things that were said before the line uttered that has no ho in it. This is a very common grammar pattern that you will definitely hear in everyday life, so when you do kind of try to zone in on the dynamic that it's kind of creating, it will most likely be a comparison kind of ordeal. And we've actually already encountered the word ho in a previous grammar pattern when we were doing the grammar pattern that is the ta form of a verb plus the phrasing 方がいい. Even in that, we're seeing how there's kind of a comparison being made, as in the side of doing verb is the better option or the best option as opposed to the other things that you could be doing. And so yeah, that is using no ho. It's a basic introduction that we've just done, and hopefully that gives you a good idea of what you're hearing whenever you hear noun plus no ho.